Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grassman Chronicles. And joining us as a guest host for this episode on the Mothman and the Point Pleasant Bridge collapse is Joe from the Kentucky Atheist. Hello,
Hey.
Joe.
Hey, Dave, and hey, everyone else that's watching. How you doing, man?
Great to have you with us at the Grassman Chronicles. Joe is our man on the ground, so to speak, for this episode. He lives in the area and has been to the Point Pleasant area, so he's going to be our expert for this episode. So we appreciate him joining us and giving us his insight as well. And hello to everybody in the chat. We've got AR and Stephanie and Michael and Crystal and Spooky. Good to see everybody. Top Tester. Hello, everyone.
Hey out there, everybody. Missing Mod, what's up?
Good to see everybody joining us at Captive Desk or at the Grassman Chronicles. Appreciate everybody tuning in. All right, so I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers too. I had a bunch of new subscribers in the last month, so welcome all the new subscribers. Hope you enjoy your adventure here at the Grassman Chronicles and at the Captive Desk. And if you're ready to go, I've got a little story, and we're going to read this off, and then we'll discuss it when I'm done. So everybody get comfy. And here we go with the Point Pleasant Bridge collapse and the Mothman. All right. And tilting windmill. Hello. Okay, here we go. In the annals of American folklore, few tales captivate the imagination quite like that of the Mothman. The story for one area begins in the summer of 1966 in the quaint town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where residents were about to encounter a phenomenon surrounding a disaster that would forever alter their reality. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia with Gallipolis and Canaga, Ohio, collapsed into the freezing Ohio River during rush hour, killing 46 people and injuring at least 8 people. The bridge's collapse was traced to a small, unseen defect in one of the eye bars that supported the bridge. The eye bar eventually cracked and began to corrode, and about 5 p.m., it failed, setting off a series of other failures that caused the bridge to collapse. The bridge had only one chain on each side of the span, while many other eye bar bridges of the time had several chains on either side. Chains means the eye bar link system that was used. The Silver Bridge was the first bridge in the country to use an eye bar link suspension system, which was proposed as a cheaper alternative to traditional wire cables and chain link anchors. However, there were questions about how much weight the system could reliably hold, so the bridge's designers claimed to compensate for potential weaknesses with heat-treated carbon steel, which they said was the strongest steel ever made. Before the Silver Bridge failed on the evening of December 15, 1967, there was no national standard for bridge inspection. The Silver Bridge collapse on the Ohio River at Point Pleasant did compel the government to adopt national bridge inspection standards. All bridges are inspected every 2 years, and those with issues found are inspected more often, and/or determinations are made to repair or replace worn or damaged parts of the bridges. Investigations into the cause of the collapse revealed structural deficiencies and design flaws, but the connection to the Mothman sightings and other paranormal phenomena could not be ignored. Some speculated that the Mothman and the UFO sightings were somehow linked to the disaster, serving as ominous warnings of the impending tragedy. Prior to the bridge collapse, reports emerged of strange sightings. A winged figure with glowing red eyes, lurking in the shadows of the night. Descriptions of the creature varied, with some describing it as a towering humanoid with massive wings, while others likened it to a giant moth or bird. Yet, amidst the discrepancies in its appearance, one aspect remained consistent. A palpable sense of unease and foreboding hung in the air. The Mothman is described as a humanoid with large wings and glowing red eyes. It has become a legendary figure in American folklore, with its most famous sightings occurring in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, between November 1966 and December 1967. The first widely reported sightings of the Mothman occurred on November 15, 1966, when two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallet, drove through the TNT area, a former World War II munitions site. They claimed to have seen a large gray creature with glowing red eyes and a 10-foot wingspan. The creature, initially spotted near an old power plant, began to follow their car, flying at incredible speeds despite their attempts to escape. Linda Scarberry described it as a flying man with 10-foot wings. The TNT area, with its abandoned buildings and dense forest, became a focal point for Mothman sightings. Many locals reported eerie encounters, often describing a sense of dread or being watched. The creature was frequently seen around the rusting remains of the munitions factories, adding an eerie backdrop to these already terrifying sightings. Numerous witnesses reported the Mothman chasing their vehicles at high speeds, seemingly toying with them. One notable incident, you know what, I forgot to put up my slides. What good is the slides if they aren't up on the screen? Gosh.
I live on the banks of that river, just not right there.
Well, let me get caught up really quick here. Yeah, we've got this. This was the Silver Bridge, and it goes over the Ohio River, and there was another bridge nearby there, and other bridges in the area, and there was a sister bridge to this one too. And we have the failure.
Yeah.
And you can see that most of it was just gone. This is the only little piece sticking up out of the water. And this is from the land slot, where the land came in. And you can see in their stories too, where people were, their cars were literally right there on that part right before it collapsed. And yeah, they were that close. So
64 people went in and 46 of them died.
Yep, they only managed to get a few of them out. So, and it was freezing cold water. So, they, even if they survived, they wouldn't survive long in the water. So, and you can see this; it was a big mess. Cars and trucks and bridge, just one big mangled mess.
Look at that car sticking up in the air. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
There's another one. Let me duck off here real quick and shut my door. Hold on.
Yeah. So just real quick while Dave's doing that, the city that bridge connects is Gallipolis, is the way it's pronounced. I know West Virginia terminology probably isn't Dave's strong suit, so Gallipolis and Kanawha County. Yeah.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I got a happy bird out the side the window there. So
yeah. Yeah, I kept hearing. I was looking around. I was like, "Is that in here?"
Yeah, that was me. I bet everybody else could hear that too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but this was terrible tragedy, and it was right before Christmas, so a lot of these people could have been out holiday shopping and everything, happy times, and then this hit. So
Yeah.
and this is a picture of the eye bar that gave way.
Mm-hmm.
And we can revisit these after the at the end here. This is, you can see there's obvious damage in this picture, and when the one went, it all went.
Yeah.
You can see the damage being inspected here. This is how it looked. They interconnect these eye bars, and it allows everything to flex and move, but there was little to no way to inspect to see, how it was doing,
It looks like a giant rivet, and it's put together the way a knife works.
Well, it's like a Rector set,
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. And here's, you can see it close up. Yeah, it's like an erector set or like a bicycle chain, where you put all the links together.
That's exactly how the. Have you seen the? I've got one somewhere. The keychains, though, that all your keys fold down into. That's how they're put together. That's exactly how they're put together.
And it's one of these things where it relies on everything, working together.
Yeah.
For its structure. So the problem is when you have one failure, it all falls apart because it relies on everything. It works great when everything's brand new and everything, but inside these where they couldn't see, it was corroding in there, and they found that there was areas where the water could pool from the rain and everything, and it just sat in there and rusted for like, 40 years. And to add to it, it was very, very cold out that day, which makes the metal very brittle on top of it. So it added all these things, and it all culminated at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. When you harden steel, it becomes more brittle. And when it's not hardened, it's more flexible and soft. So they did make it stronger by hardening it, but they also made it more brittle in the process.
And they did find evidence of, the meteorological fracturing in it or whatever and stuff from the process. And it was stronger, but not, it didn't give. So, and here's some more diagrams so you get an idea of how it looked and how it worked. Original pictures and everything of it. And then here's the model they put together to show, how it was and where the eye bar was that gave way. There's a little museum in town, I guess, where you can go and see all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we get to our Mothman sightings, which catches me up to my story here. Sorry, I forgot about the slides. I put so much work into the slideshow. And then I forget to even put it up on the screen. But we're caught up now. So then you got Mothman sightings. This is one of the famous photos. If you know anything about the Mothman, you've probably seen this photo. This is one of the more famous ones. And you have one here where the Mothman supposedly is flying up above the bridge. I put an arrow on there in case you didn't see what they're talking about. Here's another one from an ad. Now, again, this could be a tabloid or something, so take it for that, right? Yeah. But here's another, supposedly something on top of the bridge. And then we're getting into, people's descriptions and their drawings from the times. You have different descriptions of the Mothman. Descriptions like that I was just reading about, that's humanoid with really big wings. glowing eyes. All the depictions all seem to have the glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And then we're up to being chased in traffic.
Uh-huh.
And now we can get back to where I was. Not forget to change the slides this time. Okay. Where I was. The numerous witnesses reported the Mothman chasing their vehicles at high speeds. And here's a picture of the Mothman chasing cars, seemingly toying with them. One notable incident involved Marcella Bennett and her brother Raymond Wamsley, who were visiting friends near the TNT area. As they returned to their car, they saw a large winged figure rising from the ground. In a panic, they drove away, but the creature pursued them, hovering just above their vehicle before disappearing into the night. These high-speed chases were a common theme among the reports. The Mothman's ability to keep pace with cars traveling at over 100 miles per hour left witnesses both terrified and fascinated. This behavior suggested a creature with remarkable agility and speed, further fueling the mystery surrounding its origins. The Mothman was also reported to have a more intimate and unnerving presence, often peering into windows and observing residents. One of the most unsettling accounts came from Connie Carpenter, who encountered the creature while driving home from church. She described seeing a gray figure standing on the road with wings folded around its body. As she drove past, the creature unfolded its wings and took flight, chasing her car. A few days later, Connie reported seeing the creature again, this time peering through her bedroom window, leaving her deeply traumatized. These window-peering incidents were not isolated. Several residents of Point Pleasant reported walking up to find the Mothman staring at them through their windows. This invasive behavior added a personal and terrifying element to the encounters, making the Mothman not just a distant figure, but a direct intruder into people's lives. The rooftops of Point Pleasant also became a favored perch for the Mothman. Witnesses clicked it off. Sorry about that. Witnesses frequently saw the creature perched on buildings, scanning the area with its glowing red eyes. One such sighting involved a Lilly family who reported seeing a tall, dark figure standing on the roof of their home. Their children, terrified, described the creature as a big green man with glowing eyes. These rooftop sightings often occurred in the evenings, adding to the creature's eerie presence. The Mothman's ability to silently perch and observe from above contributed to the pervasive sense of unease among the townspeople. The Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant were more than just isolated incidences. They created a wave of fear and curiosity that swept through the town. Over 100 witnesses came forward with their stories, each adding to the rich tapestry of encounters that defined the Mothman legend. The local press, particularly the Point Pleasant Register, covered the sightings extensively, bringing national attention to the small West Virginia town. As word of the sighting spread, the legend of the Mothman took root, weaving its way into the fabric of Point Pleasant's history. Speculation ran rampant, with theories ranging from the supernatural to the extraterrestrial. Some believed the creature to be a harbinger of doom, a portent of impending disaster, while others saw it as a guardian spirit, watching over the town with silent vigilance. But the mystery deepened in the months that followed, as reports of UFO sightings began to surface in conjunction with the Mothman sightings. Witnesses spoke of strange lights in the sky, hovering ominously over the town, their presence adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding mystery. Amidst the chaos, tales of encounters with the notorious Men in Black emerged, suggesting a sinister cover-up surrounding the events in Point Pleasant. Described as mysterious figures in black suits, These individuals were said to suppress information about paranormal phenomena and intimidate witnesses into silence. After the bridge collapse, the strange encounters with the Mothman, the lights in the sky, and the men in black all stopped. But stories persist around the globe seen before other disasters. The belief that the Mothman is a harbinger of doom is deeply rooted in folklore and legend, particularly in relation to the events leading up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge, leading some to speculate that the creature's presence was a warning of the impending disaster. However, it's important to note that the idea of the Mothman as a harbinger of doom is a matter of interpretation and belief rather than established fact. While some individuals may view the Mothman through a lens of superstition and fear, others see the creature as a symbol of mystery, folklore, and the unknown. Throughout history, various cultures have attributed different meanings to sightings of mysterious creatures like the Mothman. Some see them as omens of impending disaster, while others view them as guardians or protectors. Ultimately, the interpretation of the Mothman's significance is subjective and can vary depending on cultural, religious, and personal beliefs. Whether the Mothman is truly a harbinger of doom is open to interpretation and remains a topic of debate and speculation among enthusiasts, skeptics, and researchers alike. To this day, the events of 1966 and 1967 continue to haunt the town of Point Pleasant, their legacy intertwined with the enduring mystery of the Mothman. Whether the creature was a guardian angel or a harbinger of doom, one thing remains certain. The legend of the Mothman will continue to captivate and unsettle minds for generations to come. The collapse of the Silver Bridge has been kept alive in popular imaginations by myths like Mothman, a cryptid that some speculate appeared as an omen before the collapse. Today, memorials scattered through Point Pleasant serve as poignant reminders of the bridge collapse and the lives lost in the tragedy. And we got the memorial here. There's another memorial where it has the bricks of all the people's names that were lost. You can go and see this there. This is one of the links. That's also another memorial that was left. And I think they have something like this in the museum, too. And here's the Mothman statue, also commemorating. It's quite a statue. Let's see. Yeah, the town of Point Pleasant has an annual Mothman festival, a Mothman museum, and a metal statue of the creature on public display. As the legend of the Mothman spread beyond the borders of Point Pleasant, sightings of the cryptid began to emerge in other locations, adding to its mystique and fueling speculation about its true nature. Excuse me. In the years that followed the collapse of the Silver Bridge, sightings of the Mothman continued to be reported in various locations throughout the United States. From the swamps of Louisiana to the forests of Oregon, stories emerged of encounters with a mysterious winged creature that bore a striking resemblance to the legendary cryptid of Point Pleasant. Each sighting added a new layer of complexity to the Mothman legend, blurring the line between fact and fiction and deepening the sense of unease that surrounded the enigmatic creature. Whether it was a supernatural entity, a misidentified animal, or something else entirely, the Mothman remained a tantalizing mystery that defied easy explanation. Despite the chilling nature of these sightings, Some experts have proposed more grounded explanations for the phenomenon. Ornithologists and wildlife experts suggest that many Mothman sightings could be attributed to the barred owl, a large bird native to the region. The barred owl has distinctive reflective eyes that glow red when illuminated at night, and its wingspan can appear formidable in low light. Its flight is also eerily silent, which could account for the unsettling experiences reported by witnesses. In other words, it snuck up on them and it scared them, right? And then it becomes bigger than life because they didn't hear it or anything, right? So that would scare you. Wildlife biologists point out that barred owls are known for their nocturnal habits and their tendency to roost in trees and other high places, which aligns with many of the reported Mothman sightings. The owl's nocturnal activity and imposing silhouette, especially when seen in unexpected contexts, could easily be misinterpreted as something more sinister. While the barred owl theory offers a plausible explanation for many of the Mothman encounters, it does little to quell the enduring fascination with the legend. For every sighting attributed to an owl, there remains accounts that defy easy categorization, leaving room for speculation and wonder. While the Point Pleasant sightings culminated in the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967, stories of similar beings have emerged from various parts of the world, often preceding significant disasters. These global Mothman sightings add to the enigmatic legacy of this creature, suggesting a broader, more ominous role as a harbinger of doom. And I've got a few examples. One of the most chilling international Mothman encounters occurred before the catastrophic Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986. Workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and residents of Pripyat, excuse my Russian, reported seeing a large winged creature with piercing red eyes around the plant. Dubbed the Black Bird of Chernobyl, this creature was allegedly seen flying over the reactor on several occasions leading up to the explosion on April 26, 1986. Witnesses also reported receiving ominous phone calls and experiencing terrifying dreams, eerily similar to the accounts from Point Pleasant. In 1978, in Freiburg, Germany, a group of miners encountered a dark-winged figure standing at the entrance of a mine. This entity, later referred to as the Freiburg Shrieker, emitted a loud, horrifying screech that drove the miners away. Shortly after the sighting, the mine collapsed, saving the miners from certain death. This incident, though less publicized, bears striking similarities to other Mothman sightings, reinforcing the creature's reputation as a portent of disaster. Just before the devastating earthquake that struck Mexico City on September 19, 1985, reports surfaced of a Mothman-like figure seen in the sky. Witnesses described a dark-winged creature with glowing eyes flying over the city. The earthquake, which measured 8.1 on the Richter scale, caused widespread destruction and loss of life. Though these sightings were not extensively documented, the accounts that do exist contribute to the narrative of the Mothman as an omen of impending calamity. In the months leading up to the catastrophic earthquake and tsunami that struck Japan in March 2011, followed by the Fukushima nuclear disaster, there were several reports of a Mothman-like creature in the region. Eyewitnesses described seeing a large black figure with wings and red eyes near the Fukushima plant. This figure, seen both before and after the disaster, was eerily similar to the descriptions from other global sightings, further solidifying the Mothman's association with tragic events. before the devastating earthquake that hit Chile on February 27, 2010. Several residents of Santiago reported seeing a strange winged creature in the weeks leading up to the disaster. These sightings described a being resembling the Mothman, with large wings and glowing red eyes, flying over the city. The earthquake, which registered a magnitude of 8.8, caused extensive damage and loss of life, adding Santiago to the list of places marked by the ominous presence of the enigmatic entity. Whether seen as a supernatural warning, a psychological phenomenon, or a series of coincidental sightings, the Mothman continues to capture the human imagination. The global reports of this creature appearing before disasters adds a layer of mystery and fear, reminding us of the fragility of life and the enduring power of myth in the modern world. As long as disasters occur, it seems likely the legend of the Mothman will continue to thrive, a dark-winged specter on the fringes of our understanding. And I wanted to get back to a few more pictures. This is the new bridge over Point Pleasant. It's a nice bridge, and hopefully it'll stand strong for many years to come. And here's another angle of it. You can see this is the area that Joe was mentioning, where the rivers come together. And yeah, that's it's a farming area, so there's not a lot of population. And what is just in the little areas right near the bridge. So, and we have the Mothman is everywhere. And we will show a couple more of these pictures here to wrap things up, because I have to mention a few other things related to it. And then Joe and I can talk about it. Okay. Now, Joe mentioned earlier that the Mothman and the Birdman type story is popular because of Point Pleasant, but it's not alone. Throughout history, cultures around the world have been captivated by the idea of Birdman creatures, beings that possess both human and avian characteristics, embodying the mystical and the otherworldly. From ancient mythology to contemporary folklore, these creatures have left an indelible mark on human imagination, inspiring stories, art, and spiritual beliefs across diverse societies. In ancient civilizations, such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece, Birdman creatures were often depicted in religious texts, artwork, and mythology. Likewise, Greek mythology featured bird-like beings with the bodies of women and the wings and talons of birds. In indigenous cultures of North and South America, Birdman creatures hold significant spiritual and cultural importance. Similarly, the Thunderbird holds a prominent place in the folklore of many Native American tribes, where it is revered as a powerful spirit associated with thunder, lightning, and storms. Depicted as a giant bird with wings that stretch across the sky, the Thunderbird is believed to possess supernatural abilities and serve as a guardian of the natural world. This photo is for Bree. I hope you enjoy this one, Bree. And I had mentioned I was doing the Mothman, and one of my sons said, "Spoon," in a text. And I said, "Oh, you can't have a Mothman story without including Arthur, right?" So we got Arthur in there, all right? If anybody didn't watch The Tick, you need to go watch The Tick. Great cartoon.
Hilarious.
And yeah, his thing was yelling spoon. So yeah, good deal. So yeah, Mothman, in the pop culture and everything else. So I wanted to include that photo. So in contemporary popular culture, Birdman creatures continue to capture the imagination, appearing in literature, film, and art, from the superhero Falcon in Marvel Comics to the iconic creature known as Mothman in urban legends. These beings serve as symbols of transformation, freedom, and the human desire to transcend earthly limitations. The prevalence of Birdman creatures across cultures speaks to humanity's fascination with flight, transformation, and the mysteries of the natural world. In many traditions, these creatures symbolize the connection between the earthly and the divine, bridging the gap between the human realm and the spiritual realm. Whether viewed as mythical beings, symbolic representations, or creatures of the imagination, Birdman creatures continue to hold a timeless allure, reminding us of the boundless possibilities of human creativity and the enduring power of myth and legend. Hope you enjoyed that story about the Mothman. And sadly, I had to include the bridge collapse, but if any good came out of it, it's that now they inspect bridges and there's standards to be met, and it sometimes takes a tragedy, but they do inspect the bridges now, so we'll take that for what it's worth. There was also a sister bridge built, and although it didn't have what they suspected were the same problems, because it was a limited traffic on this bridge, the bad taste in everybody's mouth, obviously public opinion, they condemned the sister bridge and took that one down too, just in case. So there is the many citizens in the media had concluded that the bridge had fallen because vehicles in 1967 were heavier than they were in 1928. In the 1920s, a typical car weighed about 1,500 pounds. Trucks weighed no more than 20,000 pounds. By 1967, the average car weighed about 4,000 pounds, and trucks weighed up to 60,000 pounds. But that was not what caused the bridge's failure. The vast majority of the weight supported by a long span bridge that is that of the bridge itself. As such, the increase in live load was relatively insignificant. Despite increased vehicle weights and truck traffic, the Silver Bridge was, on December 15, 1967, carrying only 41% of its design live load, and had carried much greater loads prior to that. So, the myth of it was just too much weight for the bridge isn't true, as we were looking at the photos, and I will back these up so we can look at them, Joe. This is what caused the failure. And this could not be seen because it was sandwiched in between the other islets like this, like stacked washers, right? So, yeah. What do you got to say, Joe?
Well, first of all, Point Pleasant is a tiny place, and if you're driving through West Virginia, you would completely miss it. They are famous for the Mothman, and they do now get tons of tourists and visitors that come to the museum and see the statue and want to see the new bridge and the stuff, the pieces of the old bridge that they've preserved. So yeah, it's a really neat thing. I've talked to several of the locals from Point Pleasant, And most of them, like that I've talked to anyway, of course they know the Mothman story and things, but they there's a myriad of explanations of what happened and stuff. And this thing with the bridge, they were told that for the way they built it, that it was too much stress on these eye bars. And but it was the first one of its kind, and they were proud of that, so they kept it.
And this is a product of the Roaring Twenties. People
Mhm.
had the mentality that nothing could stop us. You know what I mean? We could build to the sky and beyond. There was just no stopping us. So there was a little bit of ego problem with some of these folks too. Kind
Yeah,
of like with the Titanic story too. It's
yeah,
unsinkable, and it's like, well, the famous last words, right?
yeah, yeah. Point Pleasant was a hopping little town. At the time this happened, but things were good there. People were happy. The A couple things I want to mention though about the story. So the Scarboroughs uh, that ran into Mothman on the road to the TNT, or the uh, munitions site from World War II, is why it's called TNT. Um, and they found a bunch of TNT powder and stuff, nitroglycerin powder and all that there. So it was called the TNT site. But the road leading into that is incredibly straight. So when this guy's talking about it's following their car at almost 100 miles an hour, um, the local story is that he was out there drag racing and tore up his car and made up a story, and it just grew from there. And that's that's what I've heard anyway. I don't, of course nobody knows the truth of it, but the Scarboroughs, I think that's the name, right? Scarborough.
Yeah. Well, there's several of them, but yeah,
They were the
something
first,
like that.
and all this happened before the bridge. It was the months leading up to the bridge that the Mothman was sighted, and all that, and then right before the bridge collapsed, and then after the bridge collapsed, it kind of stopped because people were not thinking about that anymore. They were mourning this huge disaster that happened with the bridge. I mean,
Scarberry.
Scarberry, yeah, that's it.
Scarberry's the name. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's been biologists have put forth a number of things that that may explain it, and there's even been biologists that say, well, they think that maybe it's some kind of animal that we haven't documented or whatever. And but the the two stories that seem to be most common are that it was either a sandbill heron, or because they have red patches around their eyes, or a barn owl. Now, I like the barn owl explanation because barn owls' eyes glow brighter than most others, because they're actually they are nocturnal, but they're kind of a diurnal owl. They can do both, and their eyes are in fact they're known to be the most reflective in out of all the owls. So it makes sense, and the picture of it flying to me looks like an owl carrying a snake or something out of the river. But uh, that's everybody's entitled to their own opinion about it, I guess. But it definitely put Point Pleasant on the map, and it's a neat little town. If you're in West Virginia, check it out. It's the towns around it are kind of neat too. Clendenin and Gallipolis and all those places. It's a neat little area, and it's small town America for sure. It's you're looking at a city with less than 5,000 people, and but they have sometimes the tourists that come there outnumber the residents. So it's a big deal there, and it gives them a little tourism money and helps them out. So I think it's harmless, but I have to look at it through a skeptical lens. That's kind of my thing, you know. So
If you're in the area, like I say, you can stop by one of these memorials and pay your respects, and get your picture by the Mothman statue there.
yeah.
That'd
Now, see, Point Pleasant was
be
famous
neat.
for another place for a while. Hillbilly Hot Dogs is the name of the place, and they were
Yeah,
known.
you've spoken about that before. Tell everybody about the hillbilly hot dogs real quick.
So Hillbilly Hot Dogs was on Man vs. Food at one time. They had a 2-pound hot dog all dressed up that he ate, and the restaurant is actually inside of like old school buses stacked together, and there's booths and everything, and I mean it's everything hillbilly about it. But I mean the food was really 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 good, but it kind of for a while was more famous, but it shut down during the pandemic, so no more of that. But Point Pleasant's just a cool place, and it's but again, it's on this big straight road, and if you're not careful, you'll drive right past it. It's not much there, but the Mothman stuff. But Hillbilly Hot Dogs was cool.
That'd be a great pit stop.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I want to say hi to AR stopping through and Star Song. And I think I said hi to Tilting Windmill. Hello, everybody. And thanks for, not sure what was being discussed there in the chat, but thanks for handling that, Crystal and everybody. If somebody wants to discuss some other topics, feel free. But that's not what we're talking about here, okay? So,
yeah,
we're here to talk about the Mothman. So, if talk about the Mothman, join the conversation. If you'd like to have a different conversation, that's not what we're talking about right now, okay?
Kick rocks.
Appreciate. We keep the chat on the Mothman, okay? Appreciate it.
I'm imagining a giant bologna slab in the deli. Yeah, it's for hot dogs, because hot dogs are kind of a iffy, food. But Hillbilly Hot Dogs, it was all beef hot dogs, and they were still hot dogs though, but they had a neat spin on it. They had all different kinds you could get with all different kinds of toppings and stuff, and it was a cool place. It really was. It was a lot of fun. I should have brought my pictures and showed everybody the pictures from Hillbilly Hot Dogs, because I've got tons of pictures of the place. But that bridge right there looks just like the bridge in my hometown. And if you follow that river, going from the silver colored bridge to the green colored bridge, and you keep, oh no, that's the other river. If you go past the green bridge where that barge is, that takes you to right straight to where I live.
Okay.
Right down the road from it.
And like I say, I love the
edition.
I love this. I love this picture.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a few other things. While you're talking about a myth, you brought up the Chief Cornstalk Curse. Why don't you tell us what do you know about the Chief Cornstalk Curse?
So the story goes that back in, I think it was 1774 is the year. It was just before America became a nation, and they were fighting with the Indians, and there was a battle. And Chief Cornstalk was the I always mess up and call him Corn Cob. I'm trying hard not to, but Chief Cornstalk was the chief of this particular group of Indians. I want to say they were Navajos, but I don't remember. And they so whenever the Indians were captured and they were putting Chief Cornstalk to death, he apparently put a curse on the town of Point Pleasant and said that, they would suffer catastrophic things, and that, the people would die and all this other stuff. And so a lot of people attributed the Mothman to being part of the Cornstalk curse. But there was a historian that went to Point Pleasant and done some digging, and it seems the first mention in history of this cornstalk curse is actually from a children's play done years and years ago. And the story of cornstalk is true, but the curse part and what he said and stuff seems to be a later addition that just kind of got mixed up in pop culture and added to it later. But cornstalk was a person, and you know, they were murdering all the Indians there at the time. So you know, it's an interesting aspect of it. There's been a lot of different because they've attributed this to aliens and all kinds of different things.
Well, speaking of all kind of different things, the TNT area we've been talking about was actually a munitions factory and depot and everything. It was covert, mostly was underground during World War II, you know, for good reasons, right? You don't want the enemy to know where they're making all this stuff. But the thing is, one of the ideas was that this plant was leaking into the water. And I looked it up, and indeed, this area is a Superfund site. It became a Superfund site in 1983, and as of 2009, it was still being cleaned up and decontaminated. Now, so, Joe, what'd you say earlier about the red water or something like that?
Yeah. So there's something called red water that they use when making the TNT, and it's a byproduct. I forget exactly how that works, but it's toxic waste, and apparently it leaked into the groundwater, and it was also being dumped directly into the Ohio River. They found a drain that came out 2 feet away from the river, so there's been a lot of toxic waste and stuff. And there was even put forth that it may be a mutated animal or something that people were seeing. That doesn't seem really likely, but it's a possibility. The TNT site, though, was, you know, one of the things that led to this becoming a big story is when the Scarberries first mentioned that they had seen this monster out towards the TNT site, and people started talking about it. And you talked about the men in black coming and the government coming in. Well, the government shut off this area and wouldn't let anybody go down that road to the TNT site anymore. And this kind of led to the conspiracy theories and things that people came up with that you know, it was men in black and the government and all this. But I mean, if you really think about it, you've got to play. They actually found cans of nitroglycerin powder and stuff still there.
You know, if somebody was around, it was for a good reason.
Yeah.
So this could have been. Well, the government was nose around. Well, yeah, because they were closing down that area. So.
Yeah, they didn't want people messing around there. And you know, you've got people out there messing around saying they're seeing aliens and everything else. You know,
it was probably someplace to go and park, right?
Yeah, right. That's the thing. Is like the TNT site is way out of road by itself, and it's a very, very straight road for like a mile. So they would go out there and drag race and party and everything. So the government shut it down. They didn't want a bunch of crazy rednecks out there messing around, you know. People were going out there looking for evidence of the Mothman, and it was a problem. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, it was expected that they do that, you know. And I think that led to a lot of the conspiracy theory and stuff surrounding it, is because the government,
and not just the chemicals. A lot of this stuff was underground, and you could be walking around over there and fall through a hole, right?
Yeah,
and fall, you know, 40, 50 feet or something down into a old storage facility or something. You're going to get badly hurt, if not dead.
There's one of the power plants that there, because there were multiple power plants, and all these power plants had birds and stuff living in them, pigeons and all this, except for one. And in this one, there was no birds in it. So they said that's where Mothman was, and the birds, you know, knew not to go there or whatever, even though he was a bird or whatever, you know. But that was kind of the story. And there's still one of those standing, and you can go visit it. You can go to the TNT site now. But there is, they are cleaning. They supposedly they drained all the groundwater out there, and they've cleaned it all up, and but it was a big deal, the red water leaking into the groundwater and stuff. It caused a lot of problems.
And
But
speaking, one of the contradictions then I wanted to mention was some of the reports are of loud flapping wings.
yeah,
And other ones, like I said earlier about sneaking up on somebody, they didn't hear any wings at all. And like that owl, excuse me, it doesn't make noise. That's part of its stealth on,
yeah, it's
catching
really
its
neat.
prey. So there is that big contradiction there of whether it's silent or if it's really loud and flapping. So
Well,
that
even
was.
sorry,
Go ahead. No, you
even
go ahead.
even among the people who were supposed to be documented eyewitnesses of the Mothman, some said that it had a round head. Some said that its head was, you've seen some of those where it was like just a hump on top of its body. Some said it didn't have a head at all, just eyes sticking out of its chest. And there was, there's a lot of conflicting stories there. And I get it was at night and people didn't get a great look at it. But, you have to, some say it's like that. Some said that one. Yeah. That looks like an owl right there, actually.
And this one's more human-like.
Yeah. And if you've seen the movies Jeepers Creepers, that's what it's based on, is the Mothman story. And the book, The Mothman Prophecies.
Here's one with no head, like you were saying.
Yeah.
More like a bug, yeah.
Yeah. The Mothman Prophecies is an excellent book. I recommend reading it. But it's not, it's not exactly related to Mothman. I mean, it tells that story, but there's a lot of other stuff in there. But it's I forget who wrote that, but
is that Keel? Is that the one that Keel wrote?
Yeah, Keel wrote it. But Point Pleasant is again a small, poor town in West Virginia, and it's a really interesting place if you're ever going through the state. I recommend stopping and checking out the museum and stuff. It's a really interesting story that just happens to have an unfortunate ending. But
that I've also got a big group of stuff here too that all seems to kind of tie in and maybe have an explanation. Are the UFO sightings, the lights in the sky? Even John Keel claims that he saw the lights in the sky too. That the National Guard and the state police were involved. That men in black were showing up telling people to keep quiet. And if we want to look for a realistic answer, like we were saying, it could have just been that they were out there. There could have been military out there hauling stuff away with a helicopter. You could have federal agents running around seeing what people, knew, or if anybody was nosing around out there. Yeah. And maybe they were telling them, stay out of that area. You can get hurt or something like that. And maybe it got twisted a little bit to, that's not exactly what they were saying. But it seems that, from a skeptic's point of view, to explain men in black, lights in skies, all the activity and all these UFO lights and everything seem to be coming around the TNT area. So that could be explained by them. Yeah, that could be explained by maybe there was still some live stuff out there. They recovered it and then they set it up as a super fund to clean up the mess afterwards. What do you think?
Yeah. That seems likely to me. And as for the Men in Black thing, because there's this claim that Men in Black went around town telling everybody not to talk about it, not to say anything, and all this stuff. But none of them ever quit saying anything. They continued to talk about it, and
they were probably asking them, does the water tingle when you drink it?
Exactly. I think it was more of that thing. There were government workers there looking around town to see how bad the exposure was.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that makes sense and seems to be a more likely story. That it was a made up story, or somebody hit an owl while driving down the road and it scared them and they thought it was something else. Um, as for the one lady that said she seen it while driving on the road, on the side of the road or whatever, her story has changed over the years, because she says she drove by it. Then she says she was driving and all of a sudden the car slid sideways and they could see it standing beside where they were wrecking. So it was like there to prophesize the wreck or whatever. And then there's one, she says, it jumps on the car and looks at her. And so there's also mass hysteria, which seems to be a good explanation as well, because people were talking about the Mothman before the bridge collapse, but it wasn't until after the bridge collapse that this became a bigger thing. And
before basically the press deemed it the Mothman. Supposedly before that it was called the Birdman.
yeah,
And yeah, these stories go back many years into many areas.
and UFO sightings, they had claimed to see UFOs before the Mothman thing. So there's kind of a record of people seeing weird stuff, out at this. It's always around this government facility, and there's some secret going on out there. It's seems to be a common story.
Yeah, and we could pretty readily say that, yeah, if the government's coming in there and doing stuff, they're probably flying in helicopters, and
I'll tell you something.
There's lights in the sky, yeah.
About the TNT facility. So the TNT facility, what its original purpose was they were working on explosives and stuff for the atomic bomb. They were part of the Manhattan Project. And whenever the day that we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, they shut down the TNT side. That's the day it shut down. And so another interesting thing, historically about that area, is they were doing a lot of work on explosives and stuff related to the atomic bomb. So neat stuff. That looks just like an owl bending down and looking at the screen. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
It's a pretty, that's like the standard one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks just like a barn owl.
Now, I'm looking through my notes here. Then, of course, there's the superstition that it was pin 13, so that's why the bridge failed. And, well, every bridge has a pin 13, okay? They number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? If you've got enough pins, you're going to have a pin 13, 13, okay? Or a 13, 13, 13. So, yeah. And then as far as, we covered, could it be a crane? Could it be an owl? Again, when you're surprised, and especially if it isn't native to the area, any animal can seem bigger than life. So,
yeah,
I would agree with the ornithologist that a lot of these things, especially in the dark, with the glowing eyes, an owl sneaking up on you silently, not loudly.
Yeah.
Those would seem to be an owl. And if you're parked and you're busy with your girlfriend or boyfriend at the time and the windows are a little foggy, you probably didn't see it all that really, all that good,
Right. Yeah.
And you were startled, so adrenaline's flowing, everything else, your senses are heightened, right? And it was huge, man. It was huge, right?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to ask, and whenever you're approaching something like this from a skeptical point of view, you're gonna look for a natural explanation before you jump to a supernatural explanation. And it seems there are some pretty good explanations for, what people saw and things, and it does seem to be one of those things that in my circles anyway, that apologists say don't exist, but an example of mass hysteria where people, because you even in your story, all of a sudden people are seeing it on buildings and looking in their windows and all these things, and it seems that.
And you've got, probably, I think it's still the worst bridge collapse ever, in this country.
Yeah.
So, that's not to be taken lightly, and that's, what do you call, that's got powerful mojo with a lot of people, you know what I mean? That's bad mojo, that, bad energy, all those kind of things. That's where you get a lot of your ghost stories from, and everything else is just that, it was so terrible, you know what I mean, that this disaster. And of course that adds to, people look for meanings and anything they can, cling to, especially if they lost loved ones or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you believe that there is a supernatural that interacts with our world on a regular basis, then it's not that far of a leap to do that. But,
the thing is, if the Mothman was warning that the bridge was going to collapse, it didn't seem to be specific enough that it got the message, out to anybody. You know what I mean? So... And same thing with these other places, if it was trying to warn about the nuclear plants or the earthquakes or anything else, it didn't seem to do any good because there was still a huge loss of life and everything else. So you have to question, is it really, an omen or anything, or is it more something that, a scapegoat of sorts or something, so they want to blame, somebody, or, what I mean? Just that emotional thing, because of the large loss of life and everything.
Yeah.
So let's go down the list. So we'll double check through the notes here and make sure we covered everything. So, we did mention there were a lot of witnesses. There was over 100 witnesses during this 13-week period.
Yeah.
And the munitions storage area is where these teenagers claim to have seen it, and they claim to have reported it to the police and the sheriff, whoever's in charge. Supposedly there were reports to the sheriff / police. Supposedly the sheriff went out there and didn't find anything.
Well, the sheriff said that it was a bird.
Yeah, the sheriff, he did have a press conference.
Yeah. And
that is, again, where the press came up with the nickname Mothman, because it was in the Batman comics. So, a lot of, again, this is pop culture. Somebody, had just read the Batman comic book, and they said, oh, let's call it Mothman.
Yeah.
The Chief Cornstalk Curse, we covered that. The TNT area, again, it is a former covert munitions production and storage area. And like Joe was mentioning, the things when they're going into making the bomb. If you've seen the movie that was just out,
Oppenheimer.
Thank you, Oppenheimer. Yeah, you see how the government had everybody working together in places all over the place. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all that they were included. It was leaking. Did it mutate birds in the area? Maybe. It could have killed them too. I mean, this nasty stuff going into the water is not a good thing, right? Is it the source of this bird that they were seeing? I don't know. I don't think it was. I mean, if a bird was drinking that stuff, it probably wasn't flying around or doing much anything, right? It's probably in bad shape. Yeah. But it is indeed a super fund. I looked it up. It is indeed a super fund. And how they're doing, I don't know. The last, like I say, this was as of 2009. They were still cleaning it up. So hopefully they got it cleaned up by now.
Yeah. My understanding is it's they think it's cleaned up anyway.
Yeah, and the book
They take people out there now, so
okay. The book and the movie, both, there's Mothman Prophecies, and the author of that is John Keel. You want to go check those out, just like it's spelled, Keel, Keel, John Keel. Okay. One other thing I did want to mention, and this is one of the things I forgot that ties it all into. Maybe they were asking people what's going on. Is lots of the sightings reported irritated eyes, red eyes. People mentioning the different problems with their eyes burning and itching, and again, maybe there was some.
Maybe there was a chemical leak.
Maybe there was chemicals and it was burning their eyes. And it seems to be, this seems to tie back into it a little bit, where maybe somebody's asking around, hey, are your eyes burning? Right? So I seem to see a lot of these things in Joe too, that they're connected with the TNT area. And that seems to explain a lot of it. And indeed, they could have had government people out there if this stuff was leaking and they were trying not to, don't talk about it in the press, please. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as John Keel saying he saw lights in the sky, again, if the military was in there flying in and out, he could have very well saw lights.
Well, some people described it as looking like a helicopter.
And well, yeah, because there was different descriptions of the shape of it, but they all had the patterns of lights on them. And as most people know, aircraft have a pattern of lights that flash, so that we know they're aircraft, right? So it seems to be tying in again.
Other aircraft.
I think the TNT area might be a big source of more myth and story out of this than the Mothman. So.
Yeah.
And so, again, the Men in the Black, I think there could have very well been Men in Black because of the Superfund problem.
And a lot of these people are still living, still telling.
Well, there's got to be not too many, but
no, there's still some of them.
Yeah, we got, what is it, 50? Well, it's almost 60 years because, it's about as old as I am. So, if you were 20 years old then, you're about 80 years old now. So,
yeah.
And then, in Ireland, speaking of omens and warnings, you do have the Banshee stories where the Banshee shows up and supposedly before something bad's going to happen. So there are other related cryptids and myths associated with beings that show up to warn people. One of the interesting things is, though, there was no more lights, no more Mothman, no more nothing, right after the bridge collapsed.
Yeah. So, once everybody was focused on, the tragedy at hand, it seems the mass hysteria about a cryptid running around town ended, and I think that says a lot about it too.
Well, I think they wanted to bury everything along with their dead, and put it all behind them. Yeah.
It was no longer a fun story at that point,
Yeah. And then, what do you think about the sightings around the world before these disasters?
I think they're inconsistent. I think that, this was a popular story surrounding tragedy. And, after the fact, people, claim to have experienced all kinds of things. And pareidolia is actually, is definitely at play here. Whenever a tragedy or something bad happens, people look for, if I would have recognized this sign, if I just would have paid attention to this, oh, I think I seen this and didn't think about it. There's a lot of that, and that happens a lot with these big tragedies. Look at any mass tragedy anywhere in the world, and there's always conspiracy theory and
And
side different
you had
things.
several stories of the people that were, stopped in their car just as the bridge collapsed, and any further, and they would have been down too. And that's got to be, you're looking at like, whoa, why was I so lucky,
Yeah, there's definitely a reason to apply, to look for some kind of answer outside of the natural world for things.
And on top of everything else, it was right before Christmas.
Yeah, it was.
And that's when religious and non-religious people gather with their families. It's happy times. Everybody's baking and traveling and about to travel. This is 10 days before Christmas, and this is how they spent their Christmas. It was really terrible.
As a person from small town Kentucky, right next door to West Virginia, like 5 minutes from its border, I can tell you in these small towns, everyone knows each other, right? So when just all of a sudden overnight, 46 people are dead from that town, that's a huge ordeal. I mean, kids from the schools died. People who ran businesses and stuff in town died, and it was a awful, tragic, accident that unfortunately could have been prevented. But we learned lessons from it, and now we have bridge inspections, and that's an awesome thing. Now we know the state of bridges across the country are mostly crap. But
we joke about it, but remember, look again at these pictures. I mean, what the state of some of our bridges, okay?
So
how many are we driving across every day that have an issue like this where it's this close,
Yeah.
Yeah, this bridge had a traffic light, so that's why it would.
Yeah,
it would.
It was cool.
Yeah.
They
but think about this, when they're talking about infrastructure and the need to fix things, okay? Think about, that's your car with you and your family in it, right? Look at that.
Yeah, destruction. So
is this worth a few extra pennies in taxes to build a new bridge or not? Is this worth the risk? Ask yourselves, right?
Whenever that I-beam failed, the I-beam, I guess it's not an I-beam, but what was the name of it? It's an eye connectors. I-bar. Whenever that failed, the bridge didn't drop immediately. People report that the bridge was shaking violently, and there was a lot that went on right before this. So
it made a little groan.
Yeah.
And then it kind of wobbled a little bit, and then it all went to the north, I believe.
Yeah. And I mean, just complete destruction. I mean, it looks like a bomb went off there,
Well, imagine the noise that steel made when it was snapping. I mean, that's a harrowing sound. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's got to be a sound you don't hear every day with, is something that, I mean, these eye bars are huge,
Oh yeah.
They weigh tons. So the noise had to be,
I bet the whole
unreal.
Yeah. And probably the next town over. I bet they heard it in Clendenin. But yeah, it's a we learned a lesson about inspecting our bridges and testing materials and all that. And it's unfortunate that 46 people had to die in the river in December, which, being from here, again, I live on the banks of that very river. it's cold.
Tilting asks about any relationship to the New Jersey Devil. No, I'm not in this story, but I do have the New Jersey Devil in my notes, so that'll be for an upcoming episode. So stay tuned for that, okay?
Yeah, I thought this was a really, really cool topic just because of, being familiar with the area. And I've been through there more times than I can count. It's, in fact, I worked for a company that did work down there at one time.
You're our man on the ground.
Man on the ground.
That's right. And so when were you in this area?
The last time I was in Point Pleasant was about, let's see, my son is 8, so it had to be about 4 or 5 years ago. And Hillbilly Hot Dogs was still open. That's why we went there, was to eat there and have that experience and stuff. And, we cruised around town and looked at stuff. But I've been down in town. I've seen the statue in person. I haven't been in the museum, but I've seen the statue. I've talked to lots of people down there, and I'm sure anytime somebody says they're from Point Pleasant, the first question is, "Oh, the Mothman," So it's they're kind of used to it down there, but they get a lot of tourists though that come and look at that stuff and ask questions. There's been countless documentaries made there. There's been, people researching for movies and everything else. So it's not one of those things that they put the bridge collapse is absolutely negative, in any light, but the Mothman itself, the people from there kind of take pride in talking about it when you discuss it with them. People from West Virginia are very, very friendly. They're, you can stop anybody in that town and they'll tell you whatever they know. And, you can go down to the police department and they'll take you out to the TNT place and let you look around. They'll even let you go inside of the old power plants and stuff. It's a good adventure if you're somebody that's really into cryptids and looking for, to go take part in some of that stuff and really feel part of the story. It's a neat place, but it's also, let me warn you, it's in the heart of West Virginia. And if you're not familiar with West Virginia, it's a different kind of place.
Call Joe. He'll show you around.
I'm not allowed in West Virginia anymore. I got kicked out of that state permanently. I'm not allowed in it. For real.
if you're in the area though, all the cryptid fans, it's definitely worth stopping in. I don't know if you can get a hot dog anymore, but you can definitely see the statue. And yeah, Mark, good to see you. Al, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. And let me see. I think that's through my notes.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting place.
Yeah. Just in some closing comments here, I'd like to say that, they're, once again, these areas that are contaminated are just terrible, and the harm on the environment, and then all the money to clean it up over so many years. It's just awful. As to the bridge, there are other bridges, like I mentioned, the Three Sister Bridges in the Three Rivers area. They have the same type of eye connections, but they don't have just the one chain of eye bars. They have numerous ones. So if one would fail, the bridge doesn't fall. And these bridges are still used. They're heavily used. And there's plans on doing some work on them I don't know how many more decades in the future they plan on continuing to use them. I mentioned to Joe earlier, this reminds me of 9/11, where everything works great with these structures that, are designed to hold themselves together. But one weak link and it all comes down. And maybe it's a little better idea, instead of saving those few bucks, to build a little stronger with redundancy and everything, because how many times we've seen that when they don't, they fall down. So going forward, I hope, this will be taking into consideration a lot more. Build it a little stronger, put the redundancies in, and just tell folks, look, it's going to cost you a few extra bucks, but, pull up some of these photos of things that when they didn't spend the few extra bucks and how well they turned out, right? And as to the Mothman, what these people were seeing, who knows? We weren't there, right? It could be a bird. It could be a shadow. It could be airplane lights in the sky. Who knows? Obviously, something spooked them and scared them. And yeah, again, if you're out in the woods and it's dark and something flies at you or comes crawling out of the woods, be it a deer or a bear or whatever, it's going to scare you. And in your mind, it's going to be bigger than life and scarier than life. And yeah, you're probably going to run or drive as fast as you can to get out of there, because that's, a natural response, right? And then, yeah, when you get home, especially if you feel a little embarrassed about running and screaming and everything into the night, you might say, well, I had good reason. It was huge, right? 10 feet tall. It was good, big claws. And I can understand where the stories come from. But this one, it did capture the imagination. It was in all the papers and everything and stuff, because it was related to this disaster. I know it was a long time ago, but of course, our hearts do go out to all those people who lost loved ones. I mean, it could have been prevented. But we do love a good cryptid story. And I will say, Mothman, if you're out there, if you're trying to warn us about something, maybe scribble it on a wall or something. Be a little more specific about the warning, and, maybe it would actually, maybe, I don't know, maybe that would help. But it seems to be flying around a city telling somebody something's going to happen. Well, that, it doesn't really do a lot of good, Mothman. Okay, I appreciate the effort. Obviously, if you're trying to get a message, we do appreciate it, okay? But we need a little better message than just flying around chasing cars. That's just not going to do it for stopping people from going on a bridge. It's just not.
Very true.
And with that, I want to thank Joe for joining me, our man on the ground. I appreciate your insight and your anecdotes and everything and your information. It was greatly appreciated. And Joe is, if you don't know, from the Kentucky Atheist, and his link is in the description. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you get over there. I know Joe's really close to 1,000 subscribers.
We need 18, so all of you subscribe.
He needs 18, so he's really close. A lot of us know Joe, and we've been rooting him on, and he's got a lot of great guests on there, including me. I'm off and on over there, so
yeah.
You just might see me over on Joe's channel. And so check out his links in the description. And I also wanted to mention, we had a Christmas show scheduled and a giveaway scheduled for Christmas this past Christmas, but things got shifted around, and there was well, I don't want to talk about it. Everybody knows, right? The channel's taking a new direction. We had an interruption. I was ill. There was so many things going on. So, as promised, because I didn't forget, and it's a promise, and we're going to keep the promise. So as promised, we're going to have our giveaway show. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have Christmas in July, okay?
Good idea.
I haven't picked the date yet, but it's going to be in July. We will do Christmas in July. We will cover the Yeti, and we will have a giveaway, all right? and I don't know, we'll do something fun there. And so everybody that's over here at the captive desk, I appreciate everybody again, all the new subscribers and all the old subscribers, everybody that supports me. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. But the one rule that's going to be for the giveaway is subscribe at the Grassman Chronicles, because I'm trying to work on, having it just over at the Grassman Chronicles. I know I've got more reach with this channel, so it's still going. But subscribe at the Grassman Chronicles, and we'll have a fun game. And if you haven't noticed, I've got new artwork for the Grassman Chronicles. So if you want to be one of the first and only ones out there to have a t-shirt with the new Grassman Chronicles artwork on it, stay tuned for your chance to win. And along with it, there's going to be a mystery box that comes along with it. Okay. So it'll be a great prize for all the cryptid fans. I'm sure you'll appreciate the mystery box. Okay. So that'll be coming up in July. I haven't got a date yet. I'll get a date, and you know that I'll put out a promo and let everybody know when it's going to be. All right. So, but we will do Christmas in July. We will do the giveaway. We will do the story. It just got pushed back a little bit. Okay. But we're going to get all caught up, and we'll be back on top of it and then all right again. Okay. So, that's the news. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And let me see. All right, Christmas in July. Okay, and thanks again, Joe. Again, Joe's channel's in the description. Thank you, chat. Thank you to the subscribers. Thank you, everybody who's out there. I see Al joined in. Hello, Al. Good to see you. Star Songs out here. Let me look real quick here. Before we say goodbye, I want to say hello to everybody. And of course, Crystal's always great. Thank you, Crystal. Let's see.
Yeah.
It's the Pervy Flying Sloth Before Christmas, a new movie by Tim Burton. It could be. It could be. Let me see. Look through the comments here real quick. They're talking about other stuff here. What are you guys talking about? Lichens. Okay. Some gardeners out there. Let's see. AR says that statue would kick General Lee's ass statues. I'm surprised the scrappers haven't jacked that statue. Well, the Mothman's protecting the statue. See? So,
yeah, West Virginia's bad for that too.
Yeah, got to worry about your catalytic converters. Those dirty rottens. I mean, a friend of mine, his wife was at work. She came out, at 5 o'clock, end of the day, ready to go home. She got in her car, scared the crap out of her because it was open exhaust. Because, yeah, they cut that thing off while she was at work. I mean, knock it off, people. Gosh.
Hey, watch this.
This is terrible.
Watch this. Am I the Mothman?
There you go. And Crystal's got the links out there. Appreciate it, Crystal. And yeah, again, it's in the description. Make sure you go check out Joe. Fukushima. Yeah, Crystal says Fukushima. It was horrible. It was. I guess if I start hearing about flying sloths with red eyes, I'll take a trip to, say, Nebraska. I desperately hope that my house survives. And Crystal says, 95% of the ocean is unexplored. So, maybe that's where the Mothman's at.
Isn't that
Just
such
haven't
an
found them.
interesting fact.
Yep. AR says, I've never seen Mothman and Jesus in the same room at the same time. Coincidence?
Excellent point.
I don't think so.
Now you're reading the nonsense, aren't you? I can see by the look on your face. It got to the stupid part, didn't it?
No comment. No comment. Like I said, some folks got something to say, and it's all good. You got something to say, but that's not what we were talking about here. So, it looks like Crystal and people took care of it, so no problem, right? There we go. Everything's fine. Here we go. Every bridge now has a bug zapper to keep away Mothman, and is inspected to make sure it's plugged in. There you go. So you can blame the Mothman. It is too. There is the nefarious aspect that Mothman was up there like something on the wing, right? And it was ripping the wires out or something, right? So
we've actually got a bridge here that is that bug zapper blue purple color, and at night it lights up the sky for miles and miles away, and it looks like a bug zapper when it comes on. Actually, it may be.
AR likes the statue. It's pretty rad. That is an awesome statue. That is a nice statue. If I got the opportunity someday, I'd like to go get a picture of that. That'd be neat. Top says Hillbilly Hot Dog is 5 hours 37 minutes from me. I do like the hot dogs.
They closed it.
It's gone though now, huh?
Yeah. Thanks for subscribing though, Top. I seen you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Let's see. So you're getting through them here. Want to make sure. And yeah, hello everybody. If I didn't mention you, appreciate y'all stopping by. Appreciate all the comments. Lots of comments. Yeah. Top has you convinced to take a road trip. Maybe I'll go get a picture with the Mothman.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some place there to eat where you could get some local.
There's all
some
kinds
local
of
food. So yeah. And yeah, Mama stopping through. Hello, Mama.
That's another person that's real close to 1,000.
Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, she's a few closer than I am. Or he, sorry. He's a few closer than I am.
Yep. Go subscribe at Big Bad Mama too. Mama's real close to 1K. Let's help him out. You want a good laugh while you're at it? Check out his stuff. It's always good for a laugh. Mostly picking on our favorite Hawaiian shirt guy. So
yeah. I wonder if he's the Mothman.
Tilting is leaning with it's an owl. It does seem like a lot of these would be explained by an owl.
I think so too.
And let's see. Did Mothman come from Caterpillar Man? Good point. That may be another episode. Good to see you, BS. Thanks for stopping by. Or Chris Alisman. That's right.
I love it.
Good points. Good points. Always appreciate the different viewpoints. Here we go. That's why Mothman stays at Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for you. That's the kind of thing that just might put the thumb on the scale for a t-shirt.
That's a pretty good one, isn't it?
That's a pretty good one, AR. Appreciate it. Still hear that in Tom Baudette's voice. Yeah. We'll keep the light on for you. And Tilting asking about New Jersey Devil. Yeah, when I was looking up a bunch of this stuff, the New Jersey Devil kept coming up. So I said, okay, yep, New Jersey Devil's in the book. So I don't know when, but it's down in the book. And, yeah, Al Trucker, Mark Reed, and hi, hello to everybody.
Mark Reed's up early.
Yeah. Tilting, nicely done. He learned a few things. They learned a few things. So, all right, that's great. That's what we're here for. And that's about it. But I want people to find out about the awesome desk stuff. There's plenty of awesome desk stuff. And there might be some more coming up with the Big Al, because we're talking about maybe having the Big Al over here for a talk. So
he's hard to schedule.
He's busy, and but I'm flexible. So I told Al when it's convenient for him, that's when we'll do it. So there's no pressure on Al whatsoever. So
that's kind of what I did too.
I'd rather do it, when he can kick back and have a soda in his hand or whatever, and we can have a nice talk. And you're welcome for the membership, Al. I was helping Bree out this morning with some memberships.
Yeah, Bree didn't pop in and talk to us. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, well, she said evenings aren't always good for her. Sometimes she has a headache, and
I get it. I was joking.
Bree always has an open invite, though. She's been on here before, and I'm sure she'll be over here in the future. So
she called me old.
Bree is a friend of the channel, and same thing with Trees. Trees has an open invite too. I just talked to him and I told him, if he isn't, yeah, but like right now, Trees is working, so I hope you're having a good night. But if he's got an open invite, if it works out that he's not working, so it's just hard. People got things to do, and so there's no ill will or bad feelings. People, got other stuff to do. So
I literally came in from work and cleaned up just in time to set up and stuff to do this.
I
really
appreciate
wanted
you.
to talk about this because this is one of the few cryptids I can actually speak. I know a little bit from personal experience. So
it went great. It was a great talk.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tilting sub to that channel now. Thanks, appreciate it. All right.
PC with the link.
Yep. Crystal putting the link out there. AR is putting the links out there. Appreciate all the help.
Good job.
And yep, that's through everything. And so like I said, talking with Al. Again, no pressure on Al, but when it works out, we're gonna have a little talk with Al. We'll have a good time. So, and like I say, I don't want Al to be pressured or rushed or anything else. We want to have him kick back at home with his feet up, and we'll have a nice talk on that day or evening when it comes. So.
I got a question, Dave.
Yep.
Did you see my dance during the intro?
You're dancing and I'm singing. What's the world coming to?
I couldn't see you, but I knew you could see me.
When I told Joe before we started here, I said, I'm setting things up and I'm jamming, because usually before I do a stream, the way I get my voice worked up and my face all loosened up, I put on a few tunes and I sing. So I'm kicking back here and I'm jamming and I'm singing and I'm setting up the stream. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Moments before we go live. So. All right, so I wanted to say one more thing while we're on the subject. Are you fascinated by ghost stories, cryptids, and the mysterious things that go bump in the night? Do you have spine-tingling tales to share with an eager audience? Join us on the Grassman Chronicles, where we explore the realms of the supernatural and delve into the unknown. We're inviting all brave souls to step forward and share their firsthand encounters with ghosts, cryptids, and otherworldly phenomena. If you've had an encounter with an apparition, a hair-raising run-in with a Bigfoot, or the unexplained, we want to hear from you. Plus, if you're interested in being a guest host like Joe was tonight, as we investigate otherworldly claims, we'd love to have you join us on our journey into the realms of mystery and intrigue. Contact me to share your stories or inquire about becoming a guest host. Together, let's unravel the secrets of the supernatural on the Grassman Chronicles. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks again, Joe. Thanks, everybody in the chat. I hope you all have a great one. If you enjoy stories like these, please like, share, and subscribe with a bell to be notified of future videos. And we will see you then. Goodbye, everybody.